Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Kol Neshama, where we learn one Perek of Mishnayos a day. Today we are on Perek Vav of Mishnayos Brachos. Today is the end of our first week. We started last week Wednesday, and today's Tuesday. This is the end of our first week of doing this. Mazel tov to everyone who's been along for the ride until now. Mr. Shem will continue weiter until we finish Shas Mishnayos in early 2027. Today's shir is sponsored Ilay Nishmas Aaron Nachman ben Simcha HaKohen, Yoshua Mordechai ben Shepsel, Brachos Sarah Bash Shmuel Leib, and Binyamin Moshe ben Yosef. May the Neshamas have an aliyah. Amen. Perek Vav is the beginning of the third section of this Masechta. The first section was Kriya Shema, which is 3 prakim. Then we had Shemona Esrei, which is prakim Dalet and Hey, and now we get into the namesake of the Masechta. We're actually talking about the real brachos and then. So Mishnah Allah starts off, Ketzam Mevarchen Al HaPeiros. What bracha do you make on fruits of the tree? Al Peiros Ilan. What bracha do you make on fruits? Al Peiros Ilan. Omer Boy Pe'etz. On the fruits of the tree, you say Boy Pe'etz. Who creates the fruit of the tree? Chutz min hayayin. The exception is wine. Shel hayayin omer Boy Pri Hagafen. Because a wine, you say, who creates the fruit of the grapevine. Now, grapes itself, you make a Boy Pe'etz. Wine and grape juice, you make a Boy Pri Hagafen, because wine is more chashtuv, so you get more specific with the bracha. Interesting. I think it's going to say later that vinegar. We're going to get to that later. Fine. Okay. Well, Peiros haaretz omer bori pri hadama, and fruits of the ground, whether it's a fruit like melons, or you say bori pri hadama, who creates the fruit of the ground, because they don't grow on trees. Chutz min hapas, except for bread, which is so important that it deserves its own blessing. So hapasu omer hamotzu lechem haaretz, that it brings out bread from the earth. Just as wine gets more specific bracha, so too bread gets a more specific bracha. Even though the wheat grows from the ground and the grapes grow from the tree, on the wine that comes from the grapes, we make the Boy Pri Hagafen, and on the bread, which comes from the earth, which comes from the grain, which comes from the earth, you make a mutz, because it's more specific. And on vegetables, you make a Boy Pri Hadama, who brings out fruit from the ground, creates fruit from the ground. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Bori Mine Deshaim. Rabbi Yehuda says you get more specific, and you say who creates types of grasses. We don't pass on like Rabbi Yehuda in this case. That's an unfamiliar bracha to us. That's not the halacha. Interesting. On this Mishnah, the Pnei Yeshua talks about. Hold on a second. Senior moment. Oh, yeah. Okay. The Pnei Yeshua says, he has a chiddush. We've always learned that Brachos and Nehanin, the Brachos on food, are derabanan, and that the Brachos on Muslim was the deraisa. So the Pnei Yeshua has a chiddush that you learned out the brachos of food as from a svara, and a svara has a din of a deraisa. That was Bnei Yeshua's chiddush. Rosh Shlomo Kluger says that if someone makes a bori, someone who, we know the rule that someone who doesn't make a bracha is as if he stole the food that he's eating. Okay, because until you make the bracha, the food belongs to Kodesh Baruch Hu, and after you make the bracha, then the food belongs to you. So Shlomo Kluger has a chiddush that on Pesach night, when there's a mitzvah to eat matzah, and we say 2 brachas, we say Hamotzu Lechem Haaretz on the food, and we say an Alachias matzah on the mitzvah of matzah. So if someone, for whatever reason, he didn't make a hamotzi lechem in haaretz. Rather, he only made an alchias matzahs, means he made the bracha on the mitzvah, but not on the food. But Shlomo Kluger says that achilas matzah is a mitzvah haba b'avera because it's as if he stole the matzah that he ate because he didn't make a bracha rishona, and therefore it's considered a stolen matzah. And it's a mitzvah haba b'avera, if not an avera outright, because he's not yotze the mitzvah of eating matzah without making the hamotzi lechem on the aretz. Ma'adik thing. Mishnah Beis Beirach al Peres Ilan, the bracha Beirach al Peres Ilan Bari Priyadama. Someone made a bracha, let's say on an apple or a peach that grows on a tree. It's a fruit from a tree. If you say the Bari Priyadama, who created the fruit from the ground, Yatza is Yotze. Why? Because the tree ultimately grows from the ground. So it's one step removed. The apple which grows from the tree, and the tree grows from the ground, so ultimately it comes from the ground. So you're with that bracha. But if he said a bracha on a cantaloupe or a watermelon, if he said a boy pre eight because that grows from the ground, he made a boy pre eight. He is low yatsi. He's not yatsi because a watermelon does not grow on a tree. So you can't make a boy pre eight if it didn't grow on a tree. Well, kulam in amar shahakol niya. If he says shahakol niya, whose word everything came to be, which nowadays we say shahakol niya bidvaro. Yotze, he's yotze because shahakol covers everything. Shahakol covers everything. I also saw yesterday that there's one more bracha. There's one more bracha that can cover everything, and that's the bracha borin mine mizonos. I think Bnei Sascha brings it down, and the Achronim, that there are Mishnayos, I think in the Darim, that says that if someone takes a neder not to eat any food, he can still have water and salt. Water and salt are not considered part of that neder, because it's not considered food. So therefore, any other type of food, mazon, would be acceptable to say bori mina mazonos because it's a type of food. We usually regulate that to grain products that are not hamotzi, but according to the Acharonim, you'd be yotze saying a zonos on any type of food. B'di'evet. Mishnah Gimel al davar she'en gedulah min haaretz, on something that did not grow from the ground. Omer shahakol. He says shahakol, and that's everything under the sun, drinks and animal products. Chicken, beef. There's nothing grew from the ground. You say shahakol, but chometz, novos, govai, omer shahakol. So chometz is vinegar. Novos is unripe fruit that fell off the tree. Govai are kosher grasshoppers. And all those you say shahakol. Why? It's chometz because vinegar, even though vinegar is spoiled wine, the vinegar. So wine you made a boy pick off him, but now the vinegar is one step removed. It's not as kosher. Therefore, make a shahakol. And on the unripe fruit, the apple that fell off the tree before it's ripe. So when the apple is ripe, you make a boy eights. When the apple comes up before it's ripe, it's still growing, it's harmful to eat that. Eat unripe fruit, you can get sick. And therefore you would make a shahak, and on grasshoppers also you make a shahak. Al hecholov velagvina velhabeitzim amar shahak. On milk and cheese and eggs, you make a shahak because all these things do not grow from the ground. Therefore, you can't make a bori pe'etz or a bori pri hadamas. You make a shahakol on all these things. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Kol shechub min klola emavar that any food that is a cursed species, like unripe fruit or grasshoppers, has no bracha recited over it." They even say that that you shouldn't make a bracha on. According to Yehuda, you shouldn't make a bracha on the grasshoppers because they devour and destroy crops, like you had in Makkah's Arbet in Mitzrayim. They destroyed the whole crops that were left over from the Barad. So that's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Yeah, there are kosher grasshoppers. You have to ask the Sephardi what bracha he makes on the grasshopper. I personally never had one. Next time I see a Sephardi, I'm going to ask him what he says what bracha he says on a grasshopper. Hayu lefanav minim harbe. If a person, okay, now you have the question of which brachas go first. You have multiple foods in front of you from the same bracha. They all go from a tree or they all go from the ground. You don't even make a bracha on them separately, but you make the so how do you make the bracha? What do you do? Rabbi Yehuda says in yesh b'neihem mimin shiva mevarech alav. If you have in front of you shiva saminim, which are chita, sorah, wheat, barley, geffen, te'ena, which is grapes, and te'ena are figs. Rimon is a pomegranate. Say shemen is olives or olive oil. With devash, which are dates, or date honey. So if you have in front of you from the shua saminim, where I'm dollar by the way, so you make the bracha on it, and it covers all the other foods. That's what Rosh Hashanah night when you have all the simanim. So it's interesting because the first simon that's in the machzer is the apple. Okay, but why are you making the bracha on the apple when you have shua saminim in front of you? You have dates, you have pomegranates. You should make the bracha. So in my house, we actually make the bracha on the dates as well. Parenthetically, we also eat an esrog on Rosh Hashanah night in addition to the apple. But there's a machlokas whether tapuach, what a tapuach is. Some say it's an apple, and others say that it is the Eitz Hadas. It's an esrog, which was the Eitz Hadas, which was the kilkel was on Rosh Hashanah, and therefore, as a meicher, I pull out an esrog from inventory and I bring it to the yontif table and I dip the esrog into honey, as much as I eat the apple with the honey as well, because that's the minute of the Klal Yisrael, but we do both on Rosh Hashanah table, parenthetic. Okay. So as we said, Rabbi Yehuda said that the Shila Saminim go first, and we do it in the order of the pasuk, which was closer to Eretz. That's the whole thing. The Chachamim say, "Mevarich al ezer mihen sheyitze." You make the bracha on whichever one you want to eat, whichever preference, whichever you prefer to eat. It's interesting because I think that the halacha is according to Yehuda, because I never heard anyone that said that you skip over shua saminim. I wonder what the halacha is. Go look that up. Mishnah Hay, moving on. Mishnah Hay talks about if you're eating bread during a meal, how to work with the other products that are going to be eaten during the meal. So, Beirach al hayayin shlevnei hamazon, pater es hayayin shel achar hamazon. If someone recited a bracha on wine that he drank before a meal, like he made kiddush on Friday night, or if it wasn't kiddush, he made a boy pegafen on a glass of wine before he washed, so that covers the wine that he drinks after the meal. Between after, obviously it covers all the wine and other liquids that he drinks during the meal, but certainly the wine that he drinks after the meal, like day after you finish the main part of the meal, and before Begas Hamazon, he would still be yotzi with that bracha. Beirach al paperis of Nehamazon. If you recited a bracha on paperis is a foods that are usually eaten together with bread, like an appetizer. There's meat, fish, or eggs, let's say herring, for example, type of fish. If you made a bracha on the appetizer, harter es hapaperis l'achar mazon. So that covers the paperis that you eat after the meal, usually like dessert. That's to be covered from that. not include. Obviously, what you ate but during the meal is included. But you talk about if you made it before the meal, then you can be potter for the after meal. So what bracha do you make on the paperis? If you said the bracha on bread and motzilech aretz when the meal started, potter is paperis. Then you cover the paperis that's secondary to the bread. Al paperis, but if you made the bracha on the paperis before the meal, you made a bracha on the appetizer first. Lo potter as a pas, he has not covered the bread. This happens sometimes when you go to a restaurant, and it'd be very nice to put everything out in order, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they bring out the appetizers first, and so everyone's eating the appetizers, and then the sandwich shows up. You got a burger, you got a pastrami sandwich, whatever, and so now I go up, get up and wash. Really, you should have washed at the beginning and had in mind the whole meal. But according to the Mishnah, you made the bracha on the paperis, on the onion rings or on whatever you're eating for the appetizer, and now you have to go wash for the burger. Beishamai Omrim, Beishamai says, Aflo Maisikadev. Not only does the bracha on the paperis not cover bread, it does not even cover a dish of cooked grain such as porridge. I don't eat porridge. I don't know. So what things are processed in the pot according to Beis Shammai, it would not work for that bracha. Mishnavav Haya Yoshvin leEchol leEchol. So now what happens when you're sitting by a meal? What goes on here? So if people were sitting by a table rather than reclining, back in the day they used to recline at their meals. Every meal was like a Pesach Seder where they're reclining. It wasn't like what we do nowadays with the crowd. Okay, we didn't feel that. Did he come out? No, they actually had couches and they were all comfy, and it was a whole situation. So if people were sitting by a table rather than reclining to eat the meal, so each one recites the brachos for himself because it's not considered as if they're eating together. Hey, Sebu, but if they were all reclining to eat together, they're all in the room and they're all reclining. One person can recite the brachos for everyone because they have formed a group and they don't need to make the brachos for themselves. So when wine is brought to the group while they are eating the meal, so each one makes the bracha for himself, even though they're reclining, they should not be somech on one guy making the bracha for everyone else, but rather each person should make their own boy piyagav. But if wine was served after they had finished the milk, even before Brachos Hamazon, they already cleared out the main course. Everyone's like chilling out now until dessert comes up. The main meal is over. And the one should recite the blessing for everybody, and because they're no longer busy eating. Interesting stuff. Who Omer al Hamukmar, and the one who recites Brachos Hamazon also says the bracha on the incense, on the besamim that's passed around. It used to be the minute that they would pass around besamim after the meal, before Brachos Hamazon, and some do it now beforehand. So whoever's going to bend, she's the one who makes the bori meaning besamim. Even though the incense, the besamim is only brought after the meal is completed and is not really associated with the meal itself. Moving on.
Nowadays that we don't lean like that, what would be considered like one group, and what would be considered? I mean, I know it's not halachas here, but I'm just wondering if you have any insight on that, because it's like they lean. Dude, what's that?
Consult your local Orthodox rabbi.
Right. It's just interesting that when they lean, they're one group, and when they're sitting, they're like separate. So, okay, yeah, here.
That yeah. One year at Pesach time, we tried to do that the leaning that they had back in the that
Come on.
back in the day. We all made the seder like on the living room on the couches, and we were all like relaxed and put the lazy boys back, and it was not a productive seder. We all like we all conked out real fast because we were super
So sleep.
comfortable. Yeah. Yes, felt way too early. It was like, okay, we're not doing that one again. It was very interesting. Okay, Mishnah Zion. Reveal in front of Naliach B'tchila Pas. If a person, if a very salty food, such as like herring or something else, was brought in front of someone to be eaten first, it'll pass email, and it was brought along with bread, and because the food is so salty, like you have the herring with the cracker. I don't eat herring, but you gotta eat the herring with the cracker, right? So which one has kedima? Is it the herring or is it the cracker? So the Mishnah says, "Mevarich al hamaliach poter as a pass." So he makes the bracha on the salty food on the herring, and thereby he covers the bread because because according to this the only eating the cracker because you're eating the herring. If not for the herring, you'd be eating the cracker. So I passed the fill because the bread is secondary to the herring, to the salty food. Uh, the Mishnah continues the hakal. This is the rule. Kol shehu ikar. In any case where one eats a food that's primary and he eats a secondary food with it, then varich al ikar poter es hatefela. He recites the bracha on the primary food, and that covers the secondary food. You don't you know, ikar and tough. That's a major sugya throughout Shas. It's beyond the scope of this shear, but definitely go into more Ian if you have any questions on that. This is just the Mishnah, and we never pass on like a Mishnah, so this is not the final lach. Mishnah Ches, last one for today. Achal te'enim anavim rimonim. Ah, here we go. If someone eats figs, grapes, or pomegranates, or any fruit that is in the Shir Samina, as we laid out before, Mevarich Achareim Shalos Brachos. So according to the Mishnah, according to Rabbi Gamliel, according to Rabbi Gamliel, you would say the first three brachos are benching, which is Hazana Sakol, Al Aretz Hamazon, and Uvnei Yerushalayim. You would say those three brachos are brachos Hamazon after eating from the Shivas Haminim. Divrei Rabbi Gamliel, that's according to Rabbi Gamliel. But the Chachamim argue, bracha achas me'ein shalosh. No, you recite a shorter bracha, which is a short one bracha, which is a shorter version of the three brachas of benching, which we classically refer to as the al michya. It's really the al michya or the al gefen or the al eight. It's a contraction of like the 3 or 4 brachas of Brachos Hamazon. Rabbi Kiva says, I feel achal shalak who mezono mevarich achar shalosh brachos. Even if one ate a cooked vegetable and that's his meal, so it's not grain, not meat. It's just cooked vegetables, and it's eating that as a meal. Mevarich achar shalosh brachos. He recites the 3 complete brachos of Brachos Hamazon after eating it, because according to Rabbi Kiva, that the mitzvah, that the pasuk of Yechalta B'Savata of Irachta is Shalom Kecha Al Eretz Hatorah Shanas Olach, that to eat and be satisfied and to bless is not limited to foods mentioned in the earlier psukim. Rather, according to Rabbi Kiva, you would say Brachos Hamazon on any food that one eats, as long as it's the main part of the meal. Interesting. That's interesting the way Akiva says that. So we end off this Perek with talking about water. So Shosem Mayim Simo, someone drinks water for thirst, and he's not doing it to take medicine or to like wash down the fluids, whether he's thirsty, he drinks water. Amar Shahakon Bidvaro. He says, through whose words everything came to be, Shahakon, which is for things that don't grow from the ground. Rabbi Tarfon Omer, Bari Nefeshus Brachos. The Tarfon says that the bracha Rishona on being water is who creates numerous living things. Yeah, when we say as Bari Nefeshus, I'm not sure if he means the whole bracha Bari Nefeshus Chesrona or just the words Bari Nefeshus Rebus. That is according to every tarfin. Obviously, we make a shahakal on water. But if you're just drinking the water just to wash down the food because the food got stuck, or you're drinking it for medicine, you're not drinking it because you're thirsty, you can just drink the water without making a bracha on it. You only make a bracha on water when you're thirsty. Now that does not apply to any other liquid. You're drinking apple juice or orange juice or soda to wash down what's it called? The medicine, you make a shahakal because you're getting some hana from that drink. That is all for today. Have a wonderful day.